What is one thing that someone can do to start creating content today that will work? The definition of content creator is changing in 2025.
Years ago, people just see an influencer or a content creator as someone who promotes something. But nowadays, it's like much more direct within the business. So it could be an employee already in a company. If you want to become like a multimillionaire or a billionaire, you have to do something that is kind of entrepreneurial.
Is there anything that a person or a brand or a business needs to do to be a successful content creator in 2025?
Find a consistent schedule that you can stick to. I'd say at least 3 months.
Don't get disheartened if it doesn't work out in the first 3 months, because content and marketing both are long game.
Everyone is going to have to become a content creator in some way if they really want to stand out.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Australia Unfiltered, where we have candid and insightful conversations with people living in Australia. Today's conversation is super insightful, but before we get in, this wouldn't be possible without our co-sponsors, which is Anchor Cookie Co. They give the best sweet treats that are their cookies to our guests and us. And then we have Dropout Chaiwala that fuel us throughout this episode, and Aussies Group for giving their amazing podcast space, or God knows where we'd be doing. And most importantly, how can I forget you guys for watching, subscribing, and giving us your time. Coming back to the topic, personal branding has become an absolute game changer, and who better to have with us than Braith himself. He was a guy who just started putting himself out there, tried different concepts, and then he blew off on LinkedIn, and now he works with some of the biggest founders by just like cold messaging them and reaching out to them, and now he creates their personal branding. So let's get on to it. Welcome to Australia Unfiltered, Braith. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, Sarah. Thank you for having me on, especially, such short notice.
Oh, it's lovely to have you. And, once when I actually came across your profile, I never knew a guy named Braith existed.
Yeah.
But I think you off lately or recently went viral on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think towards the end of last year, I started getting a bit lucky with my LinkedIn videos. So I used to just, promote, similar to you, like just promote podcast snippets.
Yep.
And then one day I decided to change up my style and add a bit of a hook onto it.
Yeah.
Similar to how like you post podcasts and, you add a little bit of an intro to the start. So that's kind of what I did with these mini clips.
Yep.
Just to make it a lot more engaging.
Yeah.
Because I feel like during a podcast, you don't really ask questions that sound like a hook.
Yep.
Because it's more of a natural convo. So yeah, that's basically what I added on. And then one day, like used to be stuck on like 1,000 impressions. And then one day it was like 10K and then 100K and then eventually like to the millions. So,
wow.
It was a pretty cool process to see how just like making one certain tweak can make such a big difference in terms of people being able to see it.
I agree. Like when I saw that post of yours, I think it was one of your viral posts that came in my feed, and I was like, wow, so many people have liked it. What is this? And
yeah.
The fact that it kept on changing really quickly in those fast transitions. And then I don't remember this, or maybe it's a part of your video, like you came out of a trunk or you opened the car door or something of those
yeah,
stuff.
I've done some of those,
I'm like, dude, what is this guy doing? But he's talking something. It was really catchy.
Yeah.
And I think that is what worked out. Before we get started, I want to let you know that Braith is a successful content creator. He creates content for others as well. And today we will be talking about how to be a successful content creator in 2025. Right? What made you start creating content? Like, what was your need for creating content?
Yeah, so that actually goes back quite a bit. So in high school, around year 10, I started making music. And like rap and R&B type music, which is kind of out of the ordinary for my school, because my school was like mostly just focused on academics. So like no one else was doing it except for like one other mate of mine, and we were doing this together.
What made you get into it?
So I just really liked artists like X, for example, just like all these rappers. I was just really into it. And, one day I decided, instead of just listening to it or like trying to rap along, why don't I try to make some of my own? Because I've always liked writing and creating stuff as well.
Okay.
And I think, back then as like a pretty angsty or like depressed teenager, like it was a good way to channel my emotions. So like a really good way to turn myself like feeling really like down sometimes into something that could actually be positive and uplift other people if other people feel like, oh, this guy understands what I'm going through, for example.
Yep.
So that's how I got into like writing music and eventually like rapping and stuff. And there's no point creating without finding a way to market it and finding a way to connect with people who actually want to see it or hear it.
True, 100%.
So, yeah, that's how the content creation side came along. So back then, Instagram was still really good for artists. Like for music, you could get videos going to like 10K views if it was a pretty good video. Nowadays, like much harder, I feel, on Instagram.
The algorithm is so difficult to crack.
Yeah.
It's just ever changing, and sometimes you post something, it just blows up and you don't expect it to blow up. And sometimes you put an effort into something and that barely has any views or engagement. You're like, are you serious? That piece of content worked and this did not?
Yeah.
It blows my mind to see what works, what doesn't work. It's so confusing. Like people are like, be yourself, tell a story, do this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I feel like, especially with Instagram, like that, it's very hit or miss. It's hard to like know exactly when it will or won't work.
Yeah.
But yeah, back then it was a lot better. It was kind of like TikTok before TikTok came along, but obviously not to that extent where like anyone could just blow up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically where I started promoting music on TikTok, Instagram, then TikTok, and just in school hallways, like just literally anyone at my school, like I'd share them. Like if they hear I'm making music, then I'll be like, yeah, I am. Like show them my songs and stuff. So
were you the cool dude in school?
I don't know about cool dude. I don't know.
You were a rapper. I'm and a singer. So that makes you cool.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe. But it's also weird because like a lot of people. So it's like I don't know if Melbourne has selective schools, but basically, it's like schools which you need to pass like a test to get into. So then everyone's like really focused on academics. So to be doing rap music is like really weird. So at the same time, there was like hate from it because people, not just from my school, but from other selected schools, they would see like my posts about it, content about it, and there would be people hating on it at the same time because they're like, what is this guy doing?
I love haters though.
Yeah.
I think they make you more famous.
Yeah, they do. That's the thing. Like sometimes it's like some of the posts that are the most shared, like there's a lot of positive comments on there, but there's a lot of hate as well. But then like that's what drives it because there's that controversy. There's the two sides of people who perceive it differently. And
controversy sells. Like I hate to say this, but controversy sells.
Yeah, it does. It is like it takes time getting used to when it's your own thing, like especially like your own music because it's like your own baby out there. And people like shitting. Can I swear on this? I don't know if I can swear on this podcast. You
cannot beep it out.
Yeah?
I'll beep it out,
okay.
But you can swear.
Okay. I'll probably avoid it. Yeah. But yeah, people hating on it. So.
No, I love it. Like, I hate it when it's like personal. I completely get what you mean. Recently on Humans of Australia, I posted something and someone said like a very bad Indian slur word, like it was something against me.
Right.
Like I was doing a street interview. I felt so bad. I personally felt so like, why the hell? Like, what have I done? I'm building something for Australia. Yeah. It's the country and it's like everyone. It doesn't really matter why are you slurring towards me?
Yeah.
But then I'm like, forget it. Like, haters gonna hate, potatoes gonna potato. You're gonna do your own thing.
Eventually, they're like irrelevant in the big scheme of things.
I think they're jealous of you. My whole concept of it is, they're jealous of you. It's like they wish they could do it. Why is that person doing it? Get up and do it yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so sure so many people who were in academics, right? Like, from your school time, now that they see you, what you're doing, I'm so sure they're gonna, like, they admire you. I wouldn't use the word jealous, but now they admire you for what you are and what you're doing, and you're working with such amazing creators. Like, not creators, founders.
Yeah.
And so they would, like, I'm so sure they would admire you. They were once jealous.
I'm not sure, but maybe we'll see. Yeah, you never know. But there is one thing, like people who, if you just think of all the people who hate on you, like, would you ever want to swap places with them? And once you ask yourself that question, the answer is never yes.
Yes.
So then I think once you put that into perspective, like it doesn't matter who hates on you, because like the people who you truly look up to and you really respect, they're never the type to hate on other people. So,
100%. Yeah. Also, what it's very difficult to get noticed on social media, as you mentioned, compared to then to now.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned earlier as well, that your content went really viral. What got you, like, what do you think what worked for you? Was it that hook changing that worked for you? Was there anything else?
Yeah. So that was for LinkedIn for
Yeah.
sure. I'd say if I have a look at other stuff I've done, so there was this TikTok account that I did, kind of like just a side project for fun, because I've always been like really big on quotes and inspirational, motivational type
Yep.
quotes. So then one day I was like, why don't I just start a TikTok account? I'll post like one quote a day, just choose some random nice looking background like a sunset or whatever, beachside or whatever. And it's just like 15 seconds to 30 seconds, a very short video, like a nice lo-fi type song with it. And I just posted that day after day. Most like wasn't seeing any results until like a month or two. Like one of the videos reached like 1 million plus views.
Was it TikTok or Instagram?
Yeah,
or
so this
LinkedIn?
was TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah, and so a lot of the quotes would be quotes I've written down from like books or I've seen other people say or I found online. But sometimes like I just write my own ones as well because like sometimes I'm just in the zone for it. So I was like, oh, I'll just write my own one. Kind of fits within this ecosystem of these type of motivational psychology related quotes. And yeah, like that account grew to like over 10K followers. But all I did was post once a day, and each day only took like 10 minutes max. Like it was such a low touch thing. But the key thing was consistency. So like if we talk about what works for social, I always think consistency is number one. Like no matter what you're doing, if you're consistent, if you stick to a schedule, whether it's once a day, once a week, even once a month, it's really going to help you figure out what works, first of all.
Yep.
And then audience wise, you're going to slowly build an audience because people start to trust you because they're like, I can always rely on this person once a week or once a month or once a day to give me this type of content that I enjoy or that I can learn from.
Yep, true.
So yeah, that's the main thing I say, consistency.
I agree. Consistency is so important. I have a thing like consistency 100% is important. What it also does is it makes people used to your content. So
Yeah.
they start expecting your content even if they don't want it. They're like, they just see that, oh, this post is not there, or it just comes in their feed regularly. Not that they'll go out of their way to watch it,
Yeah.
but as you mentioned, if you're consistent, they might just slowly start engaging with it or start doing those things. It creates like a habit.
Yeah, for sure. Like it is quite habitual. And that kind of is what I talk about for LinkedIn when I help other people make video, especially if you have a service or a product that you're selling. If you're always coming up on people's feeds and they keep seeing you, they keep hearing your voice, they keep seeing your face, they're just going to become so familiar with you that if any opportunity comes up, whether you're reaching out or they reach out to you, that connection is just so much warmer.
Yeah.
Because they feel like they already know you.
100%.
So yeah, it is a bit of a habitual thing at the same time.
Agreed. Now, you create content for so many people and yourself, and you've tried creating content for so many different kinds of services. Like, as you said, this is not service, but one was a quote, like a fun thing that you said.
Yeah.
Then you said on LinkedIn, you created for yourself and you got that hook. And you also create kind of for founders and different places and brands. What is one thing that someone can do to start creating content today that will work?
Right. So for LinkedIn, you mean?
We'll go platform
Yeah.
wise. Like let's go platform wise. What do you think will work?
Yeah, I mean, I'll focus on LinkedIn just because I think that's the one right now I have the most understanding of.
Yep.
Content that works. So first of all, it depends on what you're selling or what you're trying to build, like what type of brand you're trying to build. But stuff that works for anyone, I think, is really personal, honest, vulnerable content. So if it's business related, this could be building in public. Because when you build in public, you have to be honest about certain failures that you've had
True.
or certain challenges that are coming up and how you're overcoming it. And then, of course, you also have the wins. So if you're trying to make 30K per month and you're going to be posting like once a month to update people on the progress towards that, people are going to feel like they're on that journey with you. Because every time you're like, oh, I made 5K this month and then I went to 7K. And then like, oh, I learned this. And people like that because not only do they feel like they're coming for the ride with you, but they also learn from you because you're out there doing what they may be also trying to do or want to do in the future.
Yeah.
So I think that vulnerable content where you're being really honest about what you're encountering in life, if it's applied to a business context, I think building in public is always really good. But you can, if it's just in general, you just want to build a brand and you just want people to know a bit more about what you're doing,
Yeah.
you can just be vulnerable about certain things. Maybe there's like a really bad accident that happened to you and it stopped you from one career, but what did you do to pick yourself back up to approach a different career? Like those sort of things people resonate a lot with, and they feel like they can understand you and be part of your journey.
That's amazing advice. This, while you were talking, even though I do the same thing,
Yeah.
I do tell my what's the right word? My failures or where I'm going wrong or something that's happened to me in the past. I do it myself. But as you were talking, the thought came in my head that does negativity or like failure, that is what sells.
Mm.
Do you think that? Like, I was just thinking while you were talking, like, you talk about an accident or, maybe success like 5K earning.
Yeah.
Yes, but I feel a lot of people are scared to say them how much money they earned. It's very few people who say how much money they earned on social media.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like failure does sell, because I feel, again, most people probably have more failures than wins, especially like really successful people. A lot of them have been serial founders, for example, in the past, and they had a lot of failed companies before they found the right one. So that's just an example of why so many more people resonate with it, because you do fail more than you win when you first get started.
Yep.
So yeah, it's being honest about the experience that everyone else has. I think that's why it sells.
Yep, agreed. When you talk about serial founders, I know this is totally off topic,
Yeah.
but I don't know if you'll be able to relate because you also work for yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's like once you start working for yourself and you create something of your own, you just want to continue doing that. Like, I feel like I've worked in the industry. Next, if I would want to work for someone in case nothing works out for me, I'm doing multiple things. If it doesn't work out for me, my thought process of like maybe going to a job is I'll be super selective and super what I want to do. But my thought would be of doing a business mostly.
Yeah.
I feel once you become an entrepreneur, you always want to continue being an entrepreneur, and you always see, even though you failed, you have that hope of success.
Yeah, because it's just so much more rewarding. Like you can break down all different aspects of it. I think from an impact standpoint, when you're in a huge company, naturally your own individual contribution is not going to be as maximized compared to if like you're in a really early stage company, you're one of the only people, or if you started something of your own, because then you have to be responsible for everything. Like kind of like today, like we're in this room and you're setting up everything, you're setting up the equipment, doing the sound checks, doing the hosting. Like obviously you feel so much more entrenched into it because you're doing everything. So that's like one aspect of it. I think the other aspect, on a more monetary side of things, if you want to become like a multimillionaire or a billionaire, you have to do something that is kind of entrepreneurial, because like there are professions where you can earn a lot, but I think to get to like the absolutely disproportional amounts, it has to be something that's like completely new, and that's when you're starting something of your own.
Yeah, I completely agree. Once you get this bug of entrepreneurship, it kind of like stays on to you.
Yeah.
And you're like, as you said, you can't, it's very rare, you can, but it's very rare that you become a multi-million-dollar or $1 billion earning person in a job.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're doing your own thing, even though this requires 100 or 1,000 times more effort and energy, and you don't know if it's going to succeed. That's always that thing. And your friends might be growing, someone's becoming head of department, someone's getting promoted, or someone's getting hired, and they're getting these salaried jobs and they're chilling everywhere, and you're like, shit, I don't think I can do that. But then I feel entrepreneurship is a long game. It'll pay off, 100% it will pay off, but it's a long game of patience, during which you might have lots of failures, and going back to content creation. And that's why these entrepreneurs or the founders that you work with, they have so many stories of failures which they can share. And in today's day and age, a lot of people do want to do something, and while so many people are getting into the zone of getting in the startup space, I think Australia is growing in the startup space of lately a lot more. So if they hear these stories, it makes them feel a little better. It feels like, okay, they can resonate with someone. It's a sense of belonging that you can create with someone who's successful. So that gives you hope that you might be that successful someday.
Yeah, exactly. Like they definitely give you the hope because they show if they can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
And that's why, like in my podcast, I like to delve into the habits, mindsets, and strategies because those are things that are transferable that anyone can take on. And if you feel that someone's journey is similar in some way, and you can adopt some of their habits that can change your life over time, then you can also get there. And I think, like the other thing you mentioned about how as a founder, it can be a bit lonely because you see all your friends getting all these promotions and climbing the ladder, and you feel like you're falling behind. I think an important thing though is that a lot of people who become founders, because you learn so much as a founder, because you're doing everything, you can always go back to like the previous jobs that you had. Like you can go
100%.
back to that industry and probably at a high level because you've actually learned so much. And I think, yeah, so for like anyone who's on the brink of taking that jump to like be a founder or like be an entrepreneur in some way, like I think the safety net, which you may not realize, is you can always go back. It's
Yeah.
not like you can't go back because in fact you should be more valuable of an employee going back if you ever decide to.
100%. I would say I worked 4 years in digital marketing in Australia. What I learned in that 4 years' time is nothing compared to what I learned in the span when I went for a time, I think 7-8 months ago on Humans of Australia.
Yeah.
I know how to set up a business. I know about an ACN and I messed up on like one setting up and then I'm like, shit, I have to call ASIC and like
Yeah.
do this thing and it's such a big mess and like
Yeah.
tax and clients acquisition and social media and
Yeah.
you just keep on. I learned InDesign, Premiere Pro, CapCut, all of these things. I go on the streets, ask random people, which I'm doing it because obviously it's my brand, but there's so much more that I've learned.
Yeah.
I can handle 10 people at once and my work and do podcasts
Yeah.
and be a co-founder at 2 other places. So it's a lot, which
Doing everything, yeah.
which I don't think if I was doing a job and someone gave me one extra responsibility, I was like, oh my God, I'd crib about it. So I didn't know I was capable of so much more. So as you rightly mentioned, that I have so much more to offer to someone if I go back to a job.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're not selling ourselves. We're talking about content creation.
Clip that up, send it to everyone.
No, we're talking about content creation, and a lot of, I feel in Australia, brands, founders, businesses are doing content creation, whereas earlier only there were content creators were influencers, and they do content creation. But a lot of other niches have also started coming into content creation.
Yeah.
Brands only had an atypical way of like selling their product, but
Yeah.
it wasn't content creation per se where they were being vulnerable. Brands have also started to do that. And now the market has grown so much and there's so much competition. How do you think a person can earn out of content creation now? As you mentioned, it's so much more difficult to get those views.
Yeah. So I think let's look at a few different people. So if you are in a company working for someone else and no one in the company is making content, I think that is a really good way for you to stand out straight away because employee generated content is just getting more and more popular. I feel like end of 2023, start of 2024 is when it really made a switch and like a lot more people starting to do it. And a lot of companies who never before would do something like that was starting to adopt. And it's only increased since then. So
do you know any company who did that?
So one company that comes to mind, so there's this person called Christina who I've been seeing some of her LinkedIn videos and I was actually going to interview her recently. But she works for this company called Stella. And I think she mentioned how through one of her doing content, it was actually how she got the job.
Okay.
There's quite a few examples of how companies are actually looking for these people who can create content that's engaging not just engaging but also educational at the same time.
Yep.
Because if you can educate people just about anything, then you can apply it to what the business does as well.
100%.
And so I feel like, in a business context, doing content, whether you're already in a business and you're like, if you're a salesperson, for example, and you're just making a bit of content about learnings you've had about sales and you're teaching about the psychology of sales, that's just going to make you stand out so much more.
100%.
And more people are going to notice you, and naturally more people like will flock towards you, become like more likely to become a client or hear about the company if you always mention it in some way.
100%. You know, the biggest example of that is what I remember is real estate agents. I don't know if you've noticed, but
Yeah.
they have started creating content. And it's in, like, I think in the start of 2024, end of 2023, it was never a thing that real estate agents were promoting, like, oh, this is a house, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, those fast cuts and talking about the different aspects of it. I've seen so many real estate agents hop onto that trend because I think someone started, they went viral, and they're like, okay, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
Before, people used to actually go view, obviously, it's a big expense, but now people are like, oh, this guy, the more a real estate agent who does that, the more likelihood to get hired at a higher price because they know that this guy has a following.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I feel that the definition of content creator is changing in ways. Like, as we just meant, how can they make money?
Yeah.
One is if they create content, a company wants them. A company might pay them extra as well. So that is one way of making money.
Yeah, like you stand out. Like whether it's trying to get a job or already being in a job. Like for example, I started a full-time role recently, a couple of weeks ago, and the way I got that job is because I post on LinkedIn. Actually, so right after I graduated last year, I did a internship at a marketing creative, like digital agency.
Yep.
And basically I was only, at the time, I was only applying to startups. So a lot of them didn't even have roles open. I was just calling them up and saying like, oh, do you have a job opening? Like I can do marketing, whatever. Like, cause these were companies with like less than 10 people.
Yeah.
But then this company Reborn came up and I noticed they only had around like 10 people. So I was like, oh, maybe I can get a similar experience there. And then so I applied to their social media internship. And then when I got on a call with the founder, I didn't actually, like they already hired for that, but he was like, oh, there's actually this other thing I want you to do for us. So it's, instead of mainly focusing on clients, there's also a big focus on growing like the company's presence itself.
Okay.
And so he was like, because I've seen the stuff you've done on LinkedIn, like, I think this could be something you can do for us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And this was like the very first call, which is very different from like previous interviews I've had where there's like 6 rounds, for example.
I don't understand what they're trying to do in 6 rounds. It's like it's by the end, I'm like, do I actually want to be here? They have tortured me even before I started working there.
Yeah. So it was so different from the start. And that was like the first example where just me posting and making content led to a job opportunity for something I didn't technically apply for. Because I applied for slightly different role.
100%.
But like through that, I obviously still got exposed to their clients, like brands under Unilever, like Dove and Vaseline. So they still had like really cool big clients that I got to and do some sort of like promotions for and stuff. And then the more recent job, I made a post about this on LinkedIn, but I've been seeing like Frank Braith for a while. So he's like sold his previous company to Domain for 180 million.
Wow.
And it was bootstrapped as well. So he built it with 2 brothers. And yeah, he's been doing this thing called Founders Table, like bringing...
I've seen that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, bring all these founders together. And I was basically like, I saw that they were doing on the Mischief yacht, like this huge 3-story yacht.
Yep.
So I was like, what if I can come in and basically help out? I'm willing to volunteer, do anything. I was like, even wash the dishes, clean the floors, just do anything. Yep. But I mentioned that at the same time, think where I can really provide value is like making this go viral on LinkedIn or showing so many more people on LinkedIn. Yep. Because that's what I've been doing. And yeah, we hopped on a call and I wasn't applying for a job this time. I literally just wanted to volunteer because I was still doing my own agency. And then like, yeah, in that very first call, like within 10 minutes, they kind of just like asked, well, do you actually want to work with us on this new venture?
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of examples where making content can just bring up all these like work opportunities for you, even if you're not exactly looking for that. Because I wasn't exactly looking for a full-time role. I was just looking to like help out because I thought it'd be cool to like work with these people who are working with really high-level founders.
Based on our conversation, what I'm thinking is, this conversation was how to be a successful content creator in 2025.
Yeah.
And content creators are associated with being an influencer. But as you're talking, in 2025, content creator is not equal to an atypical influencer. You have different influence. As you mentioned, you just put yourself out there.
Yeah.
you created content that people liked and that worked out for you. So you are a content creator basically, and you sold yourself through your content more than just a LinkedIn profile. So I think the definition of content creator is changing in 2025. Like businesses are also becoming content creators, brands are also becoming content creators. People like you and I who are normal people, as you said, vulnerability.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just fumbled with that word. Yeah, that is showcasing the real sense of content creation. It's not just like a PR package and you showcase and you do the makeup or you eat the food or you just walk the ramp or do all of this. I appreciate it. It takes a lot of effort. Don't get me in the wrong way. That is massive. Like I understand content creation is so difficult. But the definition of an atypical content creator is changing based on your conversation.
Yeah, so I think the general definition, or the definition, if we go back a few years ago, people just see an influencer or a content creator as someone who promotes something, as you said. Like it's very siloed, it's very one-dimensional. It's like they have a lot of influence. So if I can get my product in their hands, all their people will see it, that's going to help my company. But they're not very entrenched within your company.
100%.
But nowadays, it's like much more direct within the business. So it could be an employee already in a company, or a lot of like founder-led marketing does really well, where when you're starting a company and you're just creating content that's not only focused on promoting your product or service, but actually talking about your life.
Yep.
And that does really well. And I feel like everyone is going to have to become a content creator in some way if they really want to stand out and be at the top.
Yep.
Especially with AI growing, because one thing about like staying authentic is if you're able to be authentic and film yourself on video talking to people and really show your personality, that's really going to cut through the noise of everything that AI enables nowadays, because you're just going to come off a lot more real and a lot more of a person than other people who aren't doing anything.
I agree. And people always assume that AI is going to take over marketing or content creation. It helps. I'd say it helps. It aids. It's amazing. But till the time there is no human touch to it, AI is as boring as ever. AI doesn't have emotions. Even if it gets emotion, it doesn't have stories, it doesn't have vulnerability. And that brings me to the point is storytelling is what sells. Like it resonates with a person. As you mentioned, a founder tells his stories. The same way every person has their stories. It's the experience. It doesn't have to be a fancy story that, oh my God, I went to Paris and I fell down, or I broke my leg, or I met with an accident.
Yeah.
But it could just be a daily story. Just like, I was trying to go to the gym for 1 month and I couldn't, and it totally sucked. And I can see everyone being fit, but I can't. Like, that could just be made into a story itself.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think storytelling is what sells in today's day and age because of the mass dumping of content on social media. Storytelling is what's like that's what I was trying to just like get to. And even to the point that you said, like, when you put yourself out there, you got a job. A very similar thing happened to me as well. Like when I got made redundant, I put myself, like from my previous job, I got made redundant. So I put myself out there and I said that I got made redundant. So then people started like, supporting and being really nice. And then when I went full-time as well on Humans of Australia, I put it out there. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going full-time on Humans of Australia. And seeing that reel or that post, my current investor, he saw it, and I didn't have plans to get an investor in Humans of Australia.
Oh, so he wasn't an investor yet.
He wasn't an investor. I had no plans. I never thought I was at a pre-revenue stage and all of those things, like for a while, I'd say, and then I was like, what do I, like, he reached out to me, he's like, let's catch up. He didn't tell me that he wants to invest or anything, but he saw that post of mine. So he's like, let's catch up. But we missed on catching up. Then after 2 months, I again reached out, like, hey, you're told, let's catch up. So I was like, let's catch up. I just thought it's just he's just interested to know where I'm going, what I'm doing. So I told him, and he asked me, why he asked me that, are you looking for an investor? I was like, no, I'm not looking for an investor. I'm like, how does it make sense? I need to have like a particular money because I won't be able to provide a proper valuation. He's like, but I'd like to be an investor. I was like, what? I'm like, why? Like I was like, shit, should I have like said something else? But then I'm like, it's fine. It is what it is. I need to be transparent. But because I put myself out there, an unknown thing just happened to me. And it just feels nice to say that I have an investor.
Yeah.
And it's really helpful. Like, I didn't think I wanted one, but it's so much more helpful to have one.
Yeah, I mean, like all these, as you said, all these opportunities come out of nowhere that you don't even think about beforehand.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's awesome how he wanted to invest in you because, like, even before any revenue, as you said, he saw the impact you were having, and probably after meeting you, like, he just saw the person you were and believed,
100%.
like, he sees you doing things that are going to get bigger in the future. So he just wants to invest. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And that's, the power of just putting yourself out there and posting content.
100%. And also, I feel this, that people run behind followers or subscribers.
Yeah.
I get it. It's important to get money, like for YouTube subscribers. I won't count that. But followers on LinkedIn or Instagram. But I feel that's, people used to run and people yet run behind those. But if you're not posting quality content, I don't think those followers matter. And I feel people with lesser followers have so much better engagement reach, like valuable engagement and reach, even though they might not have 100,000, views. But even the 10,000 views are so much more powerful than 100,000 views. What do you think about that?
I think, so if you look at micro-influencers, and a lot of brands, I feel like they're catching on to this now, not all of them, but micro-influencers actually provide more conversions. Like, I don't know the exact stats, but if you search it up, these micro-influencers actually provide more conversions than like the biggest ones.
Yep.
Like people who are almost celebrities, because those micro-influencers have a cult-like following. Like all the people that follow them respect them so much, love them so much, would literally do anything that this person says. Oh, like if they recommend this, they'll be like, okay, I'm on to this, I'm going to start doing it. So I think in that aspect, sometimes like that smaller following, if they are very genuinely engaged audience and they all are there for the same reason, then it can be a lot more powerful for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Like, that's what I say. For Humans of Australia, we have around 12K followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, you have such less followers, why are you charging? I'm like, each follower of mine is organic. And even though I might not have 100,000 views, but I have a great source of engagement. Who are people who are genuinely interested, that's why they followed me.
Yeah.
So if you, and I'm like, I provide the value, like we provide value and the service. So that is what is more important than just running after those 100,000. Like, how do you know? 100,000 people might just view it and then next. But those 10,000 people viewing it, even if 1,000 are, as you mentioned, the cult following that happens. And cult following is not in a wrong way. And I'm so sure you also don't mean it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's just like they're
like
very...
a good cult, because the word cult actually comes from like cultists, and it's just like people who are all, I think people who have all bought into something and all feel like the same vibe or something. I might be getting that wrong, but it's actually not. It has negative connotations, but if you look into the origins of the word, it's not actually meant to be a negative thing.
Okay, I'm going to just put the definition of cult at the top here.
Yeah, chuck it
so
up,
then
chuck it up.
I'm just going to chuck it up here so
origins.
that everyone knows what it means.
Yeah.
But we don't mean it. That's what I'm trying to just say. We don't mean it in the negative sense that we're like trying to build a cult and people are like doing. It just means we're trying to build try to find the right word, like an organic following. People who actually enjoy our content might be a smaller niche, but a stronger niche.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is what is important.
Yeah, I do think in general, like if I take some of my videos, for example, one of them I think was only around 10,000 impressions, but it got like 300 total engagements, or like at least 200 to 300 total engagements, like very well engaged. And then I've had ones which are like over 1 million impressions, but have similar engagements.
Yes.
And that's how you know that at the end of the day, audience is more important, because if you have that committed audience, they're gonna be the ones who are engaged and like stay with you for longer.
Yep.
I think what's good, like the good thing about getting those like millions or hundreds of Ks is just like for growth and visibility. So that's more of like top of funnel. You can find a lot more new audiences, but what's more important, like I always say, like you should prioritize audience over algorithm.
Yes.
Because there's different ways to like make a video that appeals to the algorithm.
Yep.
But let's say you've appealed to the algorithm, they pushed it to hundreds of thousands, but you haven't appealed to the audience at all, then it was pointless. So it's always like, if you can do both, that is the best case scenario. But like audience is always first for me.
I completely agree. Like, I have seen so many brands who have like hundred of thousands of followers or 50K followers, for example,
Yeah.
but their reels have zero, like bare minimum engagement. Like, I believe one from 50,000, the conversion rate at minimum should be 1%, which is 5K, which includes views, all of those things, and ideally 5%, but
Yeah.
I'm going bare minimum 1%.
Yeah.
So 5K out of 50,000 is 5K, but they don't have that. They barely have, and if they have like crazy views, they don't have engagement. Like, there's a parallel to views to this thing.
Yeah.
I know someone who does a trick to get more views.
Right.
He might have like 100,000 or 50,000 or 60, so like 300,000 views, but he barely has like 30 likes.
Right. That's crazy.
Doesn't pay for it though.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That's wild.
but people get like, oh my god, he has so many views. I'm like, are you serious? Like, you value those views, but not that someone has, shared this piece of content 80 times.
Yeah.
That is way more important than just having something like, or more people have commented or more people have
Yeah.
liked it.
Yeah.
Those engagement metrics are so much more important.
Yeah. And I think even one layer more important if you are selling something, then it's the amount of DMs you get or calls booked and follows. Because like the follows are like the long-term play. If they're following you, most likely down the track they will eventually DM you or book a call.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's one of the key things. Like, you always want to keep that in mind. The vanity metrics are good and they're going to funnel down to these conversions, but like having those conversions as the priority if you are selling something is always like key.
Yes, 100%. And what do you think about adding a call to action at the end of your,
Yeah.
whatever content you make? Do you think that makes sense, or is it too pushy? Is it too salesy? What do you think?
I think you should always have one. So it doesn't always have to sound salesy, because sometimes it can be like there's these lead magnet posts which LinkedIn is actually cracking down on. But if you're providing genuine value with it, like you spent like 10 hours on a document that will really help people, and you just tell them, say this certain word for me to send it to you. Like, I think that makes sense. But a lot of people abuse that and then like do things where they made it with AI and it's actually no value. And then they do that a lot as well to like farm followers.
Can you give an example? I'm not sure what you mean.
So lead magnet posts are like, let's say you're in, I'll give an example of one that I'll be like releasing maybe next month. So I looked at my top 6 videos and I broke down every single frame. So like usually within a video, I might have 10 to 20 different clips in it. So I broke down a screenshot of each one and noted down, okay, what transition did I use? A lot of times I do like a flick from left to right.
I've seen that.
Yeah, they like combine together. So then the editing's really easy. I don't need to add an editing effect because I already have that like filmed effect.
Yeah.
So I'll explain what transition I did, how I did it. And then like what words I said to get people interested. For example, did I start the hook with first or second person language on purpose, because then people feel like they're being spoken to rather than saying some broad thing in third person. So like I broke down like 6 of my top videos, and within each clip, why it did well, I think, or like why people stayed engaged. And my plan is to release that as a lead magnet. So like I'll basically write a summary of, okay, like I studied my top 6 posts and broke down exactly how they went viral.
Yeah.
Like combined maybe over like 7 mil impressions, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, this is why I think they went viral. I broke down everything, created it on a Miro board. And then after I write that, at the end, the call to action would be, let's say, comment hook for this Miro board.
Oh, I got it. A lot of people have started doing that. Comment this and I'll send you my cheat sheet, or I'll send you my those things. That's what you're talking about.
So when you ask like, is it spammy or salesy? I think it's bad if you abuse that. Some people like they do those like once a week. It's like how much value can you really create in such a short amount of time? And wouldn't it be super repetitive? So like, if I think this is still good if you're doing it when you're only providing genuine value, like you spent hours on it and it's really designed in a way to help people, then that's a good use of it. And that's when the call to action really helps, because people know exactly how to reach it, especially if it's like someone you that's not connected with you. if they try to send you a message, sometimes they can't. But if they commented on your post about that certain keyword, then you know, okay, I should connect with this person and send it to them. So I think that's when it's helpful. And call to actions in general, I always think you should have some sort of call to action, even if it's just like, if you learn from this, I'd really appreciate if you reposted. Or it's like,
share with your friends,
Yeah.
or tag someone who it's going to be helpful,
yeah,
or those kind of things, like very like casual, candid, or DM me if you need help,
Exactly,
or
yeah.
book an appointment with me and I can help you.
yeah,
Yeah, true. Like those things which are helpful for also the other person. It shouldn't be completely selfish. Like obviously you have a selfish motive that obviously has to
Yeah.
be there. At the end of the day, you have to pay your bills. But with the sense of helping, I feel now people are also aware, as there's so many content creators, there needs to be something of those sorts where it is a give and take situation and not just a take situation.
Yeah, exactly. That's where the DMs come in. It's like I say that quite often, like DM me if you want to talk about LinkedIn video. And there's a lot of people who DM me that I'm not necessarily turning into clients because they might just be curious about something and I might just give them a few tips.
100%.
And that's as you said, the give and take. Like I'm not expecting them, oh, just because I replied to you, you must become a client. It's like if I'm able to help you out, maybe in the future, if you want some like more in-depth help, you can become a client. But if you don't need the help and you're able to like use those tips that I sent in a message and start making some good video, then like I'm happy as well. So it's like
Yeah, for sure.
either way it's good. And I think another thing is like how you word the call to action. So because so many people just say like follow and like, you want to stand out among the noise. You don't want to sound super generic with it. So like one of the ones that I liked when I used to tell people to reshare is like be the first person in your network to reshare.
Yeah.
So then you feel, if you really liked a post and you thought it was really cool, then actually feel special because you're like, oh, everyone's going to be like, I reshared this. So like they saw it because of me.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think
exclusivity.
the way you word it now matters more because if so many people are doing it, how do you make it sound non-generic?
Okay, that's a nice tip. Like you can make it sound exclusive for the other person to be more intrigued and to feel pride in resharing it.
Yeah, and just in a unique way that emulates your own voice. Like say it in a way that aligns with who you are as a person. So then it's
100%.
unique.
Yeah. So this is what we're speaking about people. But what about brands and businesses? They have also got into content creation. So how do they differentiate themselves, like brands and businesses?
Yeah, so I think brands and businesses, if they want to differentiate themselves with content, first of all, the biggest differentiator should be whatever their offering is. Because naturally, if you're a brand, you have your own brand identity. There's something unique about it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be a successful brand in the first place. So it's like, okay, how can you tap into that? That's if you're focusing more on a specific offering that you have. But another one that, and I think you mentioned this before the call, the Brooklyn Cafe, where like they're like really sassy and then they get known for
I'll
that.
tell you
right?
their name exactly.
Yeah.
I love their content. They're based in US. They're so good.
Yeah. Once you get known for having a certain vibe, even if it's not directly related to your offering, but it's something related to the team.
It's the Brooklyn Coffee Shop.
Brooklyn Coffee Shop, shout out.
Yeah. Shout out. Amazing content. Do watch it as a cafe. That's the last thing that you expect to watch, but they started a story series.
Yeah.
So I feel now businesses and brands also need a human aspect. They can't just be, for example, it's a pen company. The pen company can't just show how unique my pen is, how beautiful it is. It's just one click and I offer you different this thing. It needs to showcase someone writing or someone engaging. It needs a human factor.
Yeah, exactly. The human element is what people like. And if you're seeing, so like I'll give an example. When I was at that creative agency, and one of the main brands I worked on was Lifesavers.
Okay.
So you know that lolly brand?
Yep.
Yeah. And so Laura was basically like my manager, and she did most of the content, learned a lot from her. And the key thing there was, okay, like Lifesavers is a fun brand.
Okay.
So how can you create content around that like make Lifesavers feel fun? So like the content that you post on the Lifesavers page, how can you make it fun? And like some of it was like involved dressing up as like an a huge lifesaver, for example, right? And then like doing silly dances and stuff. And just hopping onto trends, I think, is like a really easy one. If you
It's
are
great
able,
for the algorithm as well.
yeah, exactly, right? If you can hop on a trend and spin it in a way that's unique to your company, then I think you've already won, right? Because you're staying relevant, you're doing fun content, but you're subtly promoting yourself or promoting your brand or company because you've been creative to relate it to that in some way.
Yeah.
So that's why, I'd say that like brands and companies can definitely tap into it if they're just aware of trends, first of all. Like that's a simple one. But on the other
Hire a
side,
Gen Z, just saying. You'll know
Yeah.
all the trends.
yeah, you just get a Gen Z intern and you'll be set.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
A, cheap. B, they love being on their phone.
Yeah.
C, they know all the trends that are going on.
Yeah.
So get Gen Zs, trust them, and if you pay them good money, they'll do such good work for you.
Yeah. I mean, like Duolingo is probably like the most well-known
I was
one.
just about to talk about Duolingo right now.
Yeah.
I was just in my brain about Duolingo.
Yeah, like they're probably one of the first ones to really blow up, and everyone knows about their owl and like everything it gets up to because of how strong they've built up that brand of like creating content around it. So
It's just sometimes being stupid and cringe is also a thing. That's actually the end of the conversation. But actually, I came across something yesterday. One thing I've noticed, and this is very Australia specific, to be very honest, is there was a creator or a marketing agency. He has his own marketing agency. There was this one person saying that in Australia, that people don't support their own friends. Like they will not support their own, like the cringe content they're making or just putting themselves out there. They won't give them a follow or a like. We're not, or if someone's doing drop shipping, it's like $20 of a hoodie. They wouldn't, or anything, $20 of a tote bag. People are not ready to support the new age thing. I completely agree. I've had friends, such close friends, I just ask them to follow. I'm not asking them to buy my hoodie or buy my tote bag or pay me for what I do. I'm like, just give me a follow on Instagram. That'll be more than enough. And like my content. That'll be so much more good. That'll be so nice for me. Told them a million times and they don't. And I just feel like it just pushed me away from them. I thought they were friends. But it's just sad to see. He said this and I completely agree with it. When you do something that is not the usual in Australia, which is like going to a job or doing all of those things, people are not appreciative of it and they look down upon you and they don't support.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that as well?
So that's the tall poppy syndrome that you're talking about in Australia.
Yes.
And the thing is, I actually made a post about this a while back.
Okay.
And I feel like I haven't personally experienced it too much because right after, like, when I started looking into going into the industry and stuff, like after a stint of thinking I might go into music marketing, I dived really deep into startups.
Yeah.
And within that startup culture, I don't think there's much tall poppy syndrome because everyone around that space is trying to do like new things and you have to support each other if you're going to do well.
Yep, true.
So I think I've been lucky in a sense that being in that environment, I haven't encountered too many people who would want to like drag you down for some.
Yeah, for sure.
But I understand it because I guess if I think back to when I was doing music, then that would be something that kind of falls into that category.
I agree. So you know what happens? You're in the startup space. Everyone is in the startup space. Everyone has the same mindset. But if you have a friend circle where no one is in a startup space except yourself, that is when the dynamics change is what I feel.
Yeah.
So being in I love being in the startup space, and the startup space is very new in Australia. But when you're in a dynamics of where there's a varied thing, like one is a content creator or someone is trying to do a business and the other people are doing like a job, that's where it falls off.
Yeah.
And that's where the tall poppy syndrome comes in.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely just your environment. And I'd say like, though, if you're in an environment like that and they're doing very different things to you and they don't agree with that, stepping out of the norm sort of vibe, if they're good people, they'll still support you. So it's like, it's not like just because they're in a different context they won't support you. They'll still be like, if they're your real friends and they're good people, they'll still support you and you still support them, even though you have very different like outlooks on career and life.
Yep.
But then I'd say, yeah, there would be a bigger majority who then they'll start to like hate on you or like try to drag you down. And I think I've just been lucky that I've kind of not come across that too much, just because I must have, just shifted out of that environment pretty quickly, I guess. Yeah.
That is really amazing. I also made a reel a while ago that, these people, they'll follow these big creators or celebrities who don't even give a damn about them. But when it comes to supporting your friends, they'll be like, why do I follow? Why do I do this? I'm like, dude, it's free. It's
It is,
free.
yeah, it
Like,
is.
I'm not asking you to give me your property or your savings or whatever, but it just hurts. Like, I'm a person. If you see my Instagram, I follow more people than the number of people follow me. Because if I see a small content creator, say a small business, I'm like, I'll just give a follow. I'm like, how does it make a difference? It's free for me.
Yeah.
But that person, I will help them. If I like, even if someone's doing a business, I'll just give them a follow. But that's how I am. Anyway, wrapping this up, is there anything else that a person or a brand or a business needs to do to be a successful content creator in 2025?
Yeah, and if you want to get started, the first thing goes back to what I said before, is find a consistent schedule that you can stick to. And you want to stick to that, I'd say at least 3 months or half a year if you can. So if that is once a week, just post once a week, literally. Because it's what I've done for everything. Like when I started my blog, which became the podcast, I was just like, I got to post once a week on LinkedIn. And I had the blog on a website. So like that would also be once a week. So I was like, no matter what, even if there's weeks when no one's really like looking at it, just keep doing it. Because eventually it's kind of like passive returns. Because eventually like you may be 2 years down the track and then someone finds this post you made 2 years ago and then they start really liking it, and then you just start seeing like more attention towards it. Like that's happened so many times for me.
For sure.
Because content's always going to be out there. Once you have something out there, people are always going to find it eventually. And along the way, from you being consistent, you're just going to be learning every single week.
100%.
So yeah, and if there's one thing they need to do, then like just take a chance on yourself. Like what's the worst that could happen?
Agreed. And just to add on your thing, consistency, 100%. And don't get disheartened if it doesn't work out in the first 3 months, because content and marketing both are long games. It's not like there are some people who get viral in like 1 day or 1 month or like the first 2-3 months. But if you keep on doing it consistently, it will push it and you will be somewhere.
Yeah.
So it is a long game, and it's a game worth playing.
Yeah. I'd say adding on to that is, don't try to do too many different things at the start. If you're trying a lot of different things, none of them are going to start building any capital, like brand capital, because then people are like, oh, do you post this or do you post that? Like you're not known for anything. So one important thing I say, if you're starting out, like just choose some sort of niche. It may not be a niche that you want to like stay in forever, but at least you will be able to like be really focused on one particular thing and learn about it in a really deep way, so that if you want to change to something else in the future, within those 3 to 6 months, you learn so much about the process by doing it properly that you can apply it to anything else.
Do you mean topic wise or channel wise, or what do you mean?
So I'd say like both. If you're really trying to master content creation, I would just start with one channel first and one specific niche. So like if I give an example about my podcast, the reason why I don't think my podcast has grown that much is because I'll be interviewing like different people every week. Like 1 week it was the founder of Mochi Donuts. So she's like an 8-figure entrepreneur who has like this donut empire. And then the next week it was a guy who was an Olympian who started companies. And then next week is this guy who at 17 years old was already shooting video for huge artists like 1-4.
Okay.
So like week to week it was so different, even though it tied together because everyone was living vicariously. Like they had these dreams. Instead of like living through their idols, they did it themselves. But that's still too broad. And eventually I realized like I niched a little bit down by like focusing on founders, people who were living unconventional paths. And then that was still a bit broad. So then like now like all the new people I take on, or like 99% of the new people I take on as guests are people who are like founders or creators who are doing really well with LinkedIn video. So it's like a super specific niche.
Yep.
And like when I started doing that, the views for those videos were definitely a lot higher because it was spoke to a very particular audience. So I'd say if I started from a very particular niche earlier on, even though I wouldn't be able to like interview such a wide range of people, I would have been able to like gain a lot more momentum. And then it's like later on, if you're already big, then you can start doing whatever you want.
I have a contradicting view to that.
Yeah.
I have a view that initially when you're starting off, you should try doing whatever you feel is for you, because what happens is you don't know what's going to work for you. For example, my take on this, probably that you're right as well. Both of us are right in our ways and both of us are wrong in our own ways. So my thing is, if you had just started with your niche on LinkedIn, probably you would have blown up. But what if that didn't blow up and you didn't know what to do? I feel personally a person should try different ways of content creation, and then in that, whatever gets the most traction, do more of that. So once you do a few, for example, LinkedIn worked out for you. What if I do Instagram? I try to follow your path. I'll be like, oh, LinkedIn worked out for him, and being very niche. But then that doesn't work out for me. But because I was also doing Instagram and LinkedIn, and then Instagram worked out for me. So my take on this is, do different kinds of content. Maybe do trends. Maybe do Instagram, whatever, like different kind of, if you're doing a podcast, different kind of hosts. See what kind of hosts work out for you specifically, and then niche it down to there. Because till the time you don't try, you're not going to know what works out for you. Each person is so different. Each person's audience reach is different. What they attract, or how they talk, and how they do things. So my take is just that on that.
Yeah, no, I respect that a lot, because I think that is closer to what I have done. Like I did try a lot of different things before. So it's definitely a unique balance. I think it's also dependent on what type of stage you are at with content creation. So if you're someone who has tried it in the past and you've never been able to commit to something, I think it might make sense to try my strategy and just commit to something. But if you're someone who hasn't done any content creation at all and you just need to try something, then like yours does make a lot of sense, because then you can start to figure out what you actually enjoy or what works for you. So I think it does depend. Definitely depends at what stage you are, or like even who you are as a person.
And even for businesses and brands is what I feel. If they're working with an agency, my take is always that initially, if I'm new to them, in case they don't have anything, it's the start of their thing. Or even if they've had something, but it's just normal traction. I feel my personal take is, as a business or a brand or a founder, they should try stuff. Because you never know what's going to work for them. Once you know what works for you, then you've got it. Then stick onto it and then keep on doing that.
Yeah. I was thinking more so people, but like for brands and businesses, you definitely need to test a few more out, especially because it's so new for you.
And then the algorithm keeps on changing, so you need to keep on adjusting with the algorithm. It's a lot. Content creation looks easy. It's like, what, you just pick up the phone and do it, but no.
It's just experimentation, I think. It's just getting the reps in.
It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of effort, time, consistency. It's not easy to be consistent. Consistency is the most difficult thing. And making sure you get the right thing. Like, obviously, you can't blame anyone. You're trying your best, but it's a very hard thing. A lot of people undervalue. I always say marketing is undervalued, like no limits. They think it's, so what? Anyone can do it. I can use an AI. Use an AI then. And then get the results. It's very rare that you use an AI and get the results.
So, and what you were saying before made me think of something. So like Seth Godin says, what would you do in life even if you knew it was going to fail, right? And I think if you apply that to content creation, it's like, what would you want to create, or what would you want to post about, even if you knew you weren't going to gain a following or get views over a long period? Because if you can figure that out, then it's still like all the other skills you can build from it are going to be worth it. Like, for example, for my podcast, meeting all these like really cool people in different fields, and especially founders, learning about their stories, being able to share their stories, that makes it worth it regardless of how big the podcast gets.
Yep.
So that's why even though, 20-ish episodes in, it hasn't grown very large at all. I've been happy with everything else I've gotten it from it.
Yep. True.
So I think if you go down with that sort of mentality, then you can't lose. Like, you're going to gain
100%.
something out of it.
100%, and I completely agree. Like, when this is my probably, I'd say, 21st podcast shoot.
Yeah.
I've not released a few. They're coming on their way and things like that. My 21st, I believe, so 20th or 21st podcast shoot. But I'd say from the first day that I started doing podcasts, so the first day I started on the camera, to today, to the setup change, to the editing style, there's so much that has changed. Like,
Yeah.
it changes over time. As you said, like, I was very varied. I'm yet varied. I wouldn't say I'm not varied. My thing is anything and everything related to Australia, we talk about it. But the point is, as you keep on doing it, you learn so much and you improve. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just crazy how much I've learned.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of patience, time and everything.
Yeah.
No doubt. But it's worth it. I would say it's completely worth it.
Yeah, for sure. Like, the learning's always worth it. And at the end of the day, like, that's what life is for. Like, if you continue learning, then that's how you're going to enjoy life.
Yeah, in today's digital day and age, content creation is where you can learn the most.
Yeah. And as we said throughout this conversation, there's just so many different opportunities that you don't even expect, like, you never think of, that will come from it.
100%. So I think people, if they watch this, they might get to know how to be a successful content creator. And you can message Braith on LinkedIn if you want tips for LinkedIn. You can DM me. I give free, like, 30 minutes help or advice or consultation if you're new in marketing. I'm always there to help. This is one thing I learned, and I love applying this to life, is anyone who messages me now, the first thing I message them is, how can I help? I don't know. I'm like, maybe they need help, but I'm like always ready to help. So if there's any way that I can help you, please feel free to DM me on LinkedIn, Instagram. I'll add mine, and I'm so sure Braith would do the same as well. Reach out to him. He's amazing at LinkedIn content. Like, I just sent yours. I'm going to say very openly, and I don't mind it. So I'm working with someone, and I'm not working, but I was just advising him and suggesting him that he should create some content. And I sent your video as a reference.
Yeah.
It's that good.
Yeah, too kind. Too kind.
No, I'm serious. It was really nice. I like the cuts. It's simple, like you're talking, and I can focus with the cuts and the engagement and the change. That is what works in today's day and age. The brain needs to be confused to understand the content. I'm serious. It's so much content. Yeah. That is what I try to do as well. But how you do it is beautiful. So do reach out to him for LinkedIn content. He is, I'd say, he's young, but he is a master of it.
Yeah. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much for the kind words. And I mean, like, so cool to come on, because
he paid me for this. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
The secret. Like, super cool, because obviously I've seen Humans of Australia from so many different touch points.
I paid him for this. Just kidding. No, I didn't.
Yeah, so it's just cool to come on now that in Melbourne as well. So yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
No worries. Now let's get to the fun part, which is the rapid fire round. Can I ask you, okay, before I start, can I ask you like some spicy questions?
Yeah,
like
anything's fine.
Yeah, in case you don't want to answer, just say pass, guys. You'll know what he's passing to. And if you answer nicely, okay, you're gonna get a hamper from Anka Cookie Co, which is a box of cookies.
Okay.
So if you're excited to have Anka cookies, they're amazing.
All right, I'll put my A game on. If you don't,
these cookies are mine, and I'll be more than happy to keep them. But anyway.
No, I do love cookies, so A game on.
Okay, game on. Okay, what do you prefer, LinkedIn or Instagram?
So just one word answers?
Yeah, like, depends on the question. Yeah. So LinkedIn or Instagram? I'll ask you different questions. Fast, it's LinkedIn, a rapid fire.
LinkedIn.
Okay, LinkedIn. Okay, Melbourne or Sydney?
Sydney.
Get out of here.
Well, I will be getting out of here.
I love Sydney too, but Melbourne has my heart. But anyway, your choice. Whatever. I appreciate it and I respect it. Whatever. Anyway, what's the most overrated thing about Australia?
Damn, that's a hard one.
There are so many things that are overrated about
That's
Australia.
overrated about Australia. I'm trying to make this fast. Okay, come on.
It's fine. Take your time.
Because I don't really know what foreigners... All I know is, like, foreigners think that Australia has, like, insects everywhere and, like, huge spiders everywhere and snakes everywhere, which, like, certain places there are a lot, and I do very bad with insects as well, so, like, I understand it, but it's not as much as people think. People think, like, you're gonna hop off the plane and then you're gonna be, like, bombarded with, like, big ass tarantulas and stuff. So
I completely agree.
I'd say the fear of Australia is overrated.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Interesting. You took your time wisely. I would say that.
Yeah.
Okay. What are three name three content creators that you think should be viral?
Three content creators that I think
Like
should be
local
viral.
Australian, based in Australia, basically.
Okay. So, first one, I'd say there's a guy that I met in Melbourne. Or I met him on TikTok because I was doing like some rap type of songs. He was doing singing, and then eventually we met up, right? And I've met up with him in Melbourne. He's met up with me in Sydney. We've like done songs together and stuff.
What's his name? Now you're keeping me curious.
James the Lap.
What is it?
James the Lap.
Okay, I'm gonna add his in the bio.
Yeah. He's like really, really good at singing. Like genuinely one of the best people I've heard sing, and he should definitely be viral, I reckon.
Okay.
He can also like speak, read, and write in perfect Chinese as well.
Okay.
And he's not Chinese. And
Oh, he's not?
Yeah, James the Lapalil.
Okay. You never know. Anyone's name could be anything. I don't judge anyone by their names.
Yeah, so even I can't read and write Chinese, so that's a really cool thing. But yeah, I think...
Your mom would love him.
Yeah?
Your mom would love him because... Are you Chinese?
Well, my parents, like, because we're Cantonese, so it's like they can't really read or write Mandarin either that much, like a little bit, because, yeah, I guess different dialect.
Yep.
Who else? So I'll shout out my boss. One of my bosses, Jock. So Jock Grief. He's newer to content. So basically, before I mentioned how like I called in Frank.
Yep.
Jock is the other. Well, they're brothers, right? And Jock is like newer to content, but I've been helping him out with some content recently. I think he should be viral because we actually did a fireside chat last week and he was just like spitting so much game. Like all the responses, he was actually giving exact numbers. For example, like spent like, I don't know if it was like 180K. Oh no, not 180K. Like maybe like some amount. Like he actually gave numbers spent on certain things when people ask questions about like, well, how much should you be putting into this side of the business?
Yep.
And so I think like what he has to share is like super valuable. But he's pretty new to content, which is why he hasn't like blown up as much yet, but he like I feel like he definitely will, so like shout out him.
Okay. Who else? One more. This was supposed to be rapid, just saying.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not very good at rapid answers, but can I just give like food
Yeah,
places?
for sure.
So I keep thinking of this place that is actually closed down, which is not good because that doesn't work. Can I say that place?
Say it.
So there used to be this place called Beijing Station, still like one of my favorite restaurants ever that I can't go to anymore in Burwood. I know you guys have a Burwood as well, but it's a different Burwood.
Listen, there's a Sydney Road in Melbourne. There's a Sydney Road in Sydney. There's a Fitzroy in Sydney. There's a Fitzroy in Melbourne. There's a Brunswick in Melbourne. There's a Brunswick in Sydney.
You know all of them. You know all of the similarities, yeah. But anyways, yeah, that place has like the best broad knife cut noodles. Like it was so good. Like and I'll never get to eat it again. Unless, well, we actually tried tracking down the people who started it because like we had like a family friend who kind of knew them. So if I'm really desperate, I might have to do that.
Yeah.
Just like pull up to their house and be like, can I
like,
try?
Please give me my noodles.
Yeah, but I kid you not, like it was the best like tasting broadleaf knife cut, because broad knife cut noodles are already like quite rare. Like there's not many restaurants that serve it, but they just did it so well. And if they had gone viral, then they probably wouldn't have closed down, because then would have just had too many people wanting it and they would have felt bad about retiring. So
Oh, so they retired.
I think they retired. So
Okay. I'm happy for them that they retired.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know too many details, but
Yeah.
that's the third place.
Okay. Last question that we're gonna go for is, if you had $1, if for 24 hours you could make one thing for $1, what would it be?
So in 24 hours,
For like 24 hours, you can make one thing for $1. What would it be?
like it cost me $1 to make it.
No. You can make anything. Like you can be like, I'll make cars for $1. I'll make houses for $1.
Oh, so I can sell it for $1, you mean?
You can buy it for $1, not sell it. Stop being an entrepreneur.
No, I'm trying
You can buy it for like you can make anything for $1 for 24 hours.
Yeah.
What would it be?
Okay. And I can buy it as many times as
Yeah,
possible.
for sure. It's 24 hours, you do what you want, but one thing for you make it for $1. What would it be?
I mean, I'd make like Bitcoin costs $1 for me. So right now it costs like way more than $1. But if it only costs $1 and I can buy as much as I want for 24 hours, I'll buy enough for generational wealth, and then after that 24 hours I can do whatever I want with it.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Smart idea.
Yeah.
Your brain is always making money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about like tickets to Japan, and I just buy like as many tickets to Japan, but it doesn't make sense. I still need to pay for accommodation. So I was like, this is more scalable.
With this, you can pay for tickets to Japan. You can buy Japan.
Yeah.
Eventually, with that Bitcoin
buy
money,
buy anything.
you can buy the whole of Japan.
Yeah.
If you buy that much Bitcoin.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
And, but that question you asked, most overrated thing about Australia, what would your answer be?
I think the nature. Like, the nature is amazing.
Yeah.
No doubt. But it's the same everywhere.
Would it like? Are you talking about beaches?
No, I'm like, when you are like, you go for a long drive.
Okay.
If I have to drive from Melbourne to Sydney, or Sydney to
Yeah.
Melbourne, or from here to Adelaide, I feel everything looks the same. And I feel also what is overhyped is the tourist spots. Like, Melbourne has nothing. Like, Sydney has the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge. But beyond that, what do I do as a tourist?
What are Melbourne's tourist spots?
Nothing. Melbourne has nothing.
Fitzroy Markets, right? Would that be?
That is not worth a tourist to spend like thousands of dollars to come to Australia and go to Fitzroy Market. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, when my parents came, I was like, what do I do? And then I was like, let's go to a cafe. They're like, oh, we've come all the way here to go to a cafe. There's literally nothing. They got happy going to Kmart though. But
Came all the way just for Kmart.
I love Kmart. It's like I hate going to Kmart because if I enter, I can't stop myself from buying.
Right.
It's like, oh, just $2, $1, $10, $25, and you're like, shit, it's $100 in total.
You know how there's a Daiso near one of the city Kmarts?
Yeah.
And like one weird thing, Daiso like used to be like $2, I think, for everything, or like $2.80. And then even on their prices they have that, but like literally everything was marked up. And then I was like, that's weird. Because like recently went to a Japanese Daiso, and they had like a fancy section.
Okay.
It was so interesting, but it's still cheap. But yeah, I don't know. This Melbourne Daiso kind of let
Listen,
me down.
the rent might be really expensive in Melbourne, okay? So I don't blame them. I'm sorry. Okay, hate it sucks for us, but Australia is super expensive.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and then labor cost is so expensive. So anyway, I think your last answer gave it to me. I liked it. So you're going to win this amazing Humans of Australia hamper with the Anchor Cookie Co.
Thank you so
cookies.
much.
No worries at all. Thank you so much, Braith, for helping, for letting our audience know how to be a successful content creator in 2025. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for our next episode. Thank you for now, and thank you, Braith.
Thank you for having me on, Sarah. This was a great chat.